So, good morning, everyone. We'll begin with the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. So, good morning, everyone. Our Chan session has concluded here at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. So I thought maybe just to continue with a little bit the theme of the meditation session, in the sense of just reflecting on what happened and kind of lessons learned. This is good for just our own history of the monastery, but maybe there are things that are useful for people in your life as well. So today I thought about sharing on the wholesome dharma of upeksha, equanimity, or we've also translated as balance in the monastery. And as I mentioned before, when you look at the Yogacara teachings, they say that of the 11 wholesome dharmas, that whenever there's a wholesome activity, 10 of the wholesome dharmas are active, meaning that in every moment when we're cultivating properly, that 10 of these wholesome dharmas are working. The only one that's not is the one's called light ease. And this one is when we're meditating and the body and mind completely relax and we're very peaceful. We're not always in that state. So it says that the other 10, though, are always active. And to me, this is a very helpful teaching because it's very existential. It makes me reflect, am I in balance or any of these wholesome qualities, right? Do I have trust and confidence? So this quality of balance also is also translated as impartiality, seeing everything as level and equal. What I realized for myself is that I tend towards imbalance. I often go to extremes in the things that I do. It could be working. It could be, when I was a kid playing video games. And even in meditation, kind of going to extremes. And I really meditate. I remember when I started out in Buddhism, I really wanted to meditate, so I meditated every moment I could get. And I was thinking, I've got to sit longer, I've got to work harder. And interesting enough, I didn't have these markers, so I ended up in a kind of imbalance. So during this session, there's a couple of lessons that I learned around this quality as I reflect on it. So one is those seeds of you could say, imbalance or partiality are still in me. pretty deep, pretty deep. I've worked on them, but interesting enough, when I start to do a session, those seeds oftentimes arise, and I want to push. And one place I've really noticed that I can catch myself when I start to push is my face. I have a particular way I hold my face when I start to push. There's a kind of a tension on the cheek, kind of way that my eyes gaze out that becomes less soft, but more intense. There's a kind of intensity in the eyes. Rather than a soft gaze, there's an intensity. And I found that I have to be very careful, because if I get into that state, I can feel like I'm doing a lot of hard work. I'm really applying myself. But what happens is it leads to a state where I'm quite agitated. I'm a little bit restless. I'm actually kind of irritated with the things around me because they're getting in the way of my intense practice. And this happened when I was early on starting to cultivate the Dharma. And so the world became kind of an obstruction. And my own kind of afflictions also became obstructions. Rather than this soft, impartial gaze, this soft, relaxed body, the face that's really relaxed. And it's interesting because I've been more aware of my face. Sitting here in the front, I just kind of sit back and sometimes just to kind of check out to see how are people doing, maybe their posture. And immediately, because we're facing each other, I see people's faces. And it's amazing how much just in one glance of a face, you can kind of get a sense where people are at. Of course, these are just my projections. But you can see the face of intensity. You can see the face of being kind of zoned out. Body's kind of sideways like this. You can see the face of being lost, kind of affliction. It's like, it's very apparent. I go, oh, okay. And I'm just going to go back inside and just watching my own face. I don't know if this was where the teachings on what is my original face came from, as people were observing their face and relaxing the face to see they get back to their original face. I don't think so, but maybe this is a creative way to reflect on it. That as we practice, our face is a kind of natural, relaxed way it is. And then we can also add a kind of gentle smile. That was one of the reflections of the participants, is that he had a lot of tension in his neck, in his shoulders. And because he would lean forward using the computer, which is a good principle. You don't want to have bad posture when you're using the computer, because we pay for it when we try to sit down and meditate. But he found that if he just did a gentle smile, his shoulders and neck would relax. You can even try that, right? Just a gentle smile. And somehow the upper part of our body just relaxes. So it's amazing how much is in our face. And what I found is the face is a very good marker for finding this balance. Another quality of this upeksha is impartiality. And this came especially, I learned from talking with Reverend Heng Shi and also Jin Wei Shi. Clearly I have my preferences, and this came up particularly strong because at one point we were discussing the schedule and asking about, should we sit longer or not? And should we sit through the incense or not? This came because, at Gold Mountain Monastery, I know in the early days, the senior disciples shared how people would sit through the incense at times and be able to sit longer. Then True Fasher shared her experience sitting, maybe 4 or 5 hours at a stretch. And myself, I actually enjoy sitting a long time because, my legs having been in the monastery for a while, are not so, you could say, unruly. And maybe because my mind is so agitated, it takes me quite a while just to settle down my mind. And so being able to sit longer, I feel like, I can actually, engage my mind more deeply. And so I was talking with Jin Shi, having my preference of wanting to sit longer a little bit. And it's okay, we can sit longer. But we thought it'd still be a good idea to bring a Reverend Hong Shi. And I mentioned one time in our meetings, and he basically said not a good idea. But he didn't say it very strongly. So, and we had very little time to discuss that meeting, so we kind of, went back. But later, I was talking with Jin Shi, I said, well, what do you think? So Dharma Master didn't seem so keen on it. So let's double check. So we had a call specifically just to talk about this issue, just to go into it. And I called Dharma Master and explained all the reasons why to sit longer. And Dharma Master patiently listened to me, for quite a while. And he said, not a good idea. And he said, in meditation, everything is meditation. You see everything as level and equal. And I realized this is the principle of impartiality. It says when people walk, you walk. When people sit, you sit. You follow the schedule. To create something special that we were doing individually, that just creates differences and adding a head on top of a head. So I was listening, okay. It says really in the sits, if people want to bring more into their practice, then tell them quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. And I looked at myself, I thought, wow, it's a good teaching because I can attach to external marks of wanting quantity, of wanting to be this or want to be that. But I said, can I be in balance using the wholesome dharmas? Can I be in balance every moment in my cultivation and not follow my preferences of what I like to do? So afterwards, I was talking to Jin Shi with Dharma Master being so clear, then we changed the schedule back to say, okay, everyone just follow the schedule. While we walk, we walk. When we sit, we sit. Right now, this isn't what we're doing in this session in terms of people being able to just sit long. But it was definitely a teaching for myself because I could see on those two aspects. One is trying to cultivate a sense of internal balance, of not looking for something special, of kind of trying to get somewhere. And the second one is not to follow my preferences, but to be harmonious in the group. And this is something also I realized talking with Jin Shi, which I think Jin Shi has a stronger sensibility here than I do. Maybe because of my Aries nature, I like to push ahead and kind of force things a little bit. But it's also looking at things from the community perspective. So maybe you like to sit longer, but how about the rest of the community? There's many people here who maybe just sitting 45 minutes is hard. And I thought, yeah, that's true. It says, and if people sit longer, you can create a heart of competition. When I remember coming to the sessions and seeing somebody sit for a long time, and it kind of feel like, look, they're so peaceful sitting, and I'm so having such a hard time, being able to even just get through the sit. And there's a lot of friction arises in people's hearts. I said, yeah, it's true. And I remember just thinking back when I started out in the sessions, yeah, I had that mentality, looking at people who could sit longer and not having the ability to do that, and feeling, oh, maybe I could just be like them and be really peaceful. So maybe I'll just finish on this. Actually, there was one of the participants who had that experience because he saw people sitting longer. He thought, maybe I'm going to sit long too. And he really forced himself through the pain and really exhausted himself and got kind of depressed. And later he was sharing the experience with us, and I thought, oh, interesting, to hear his experience. And I think in this principle, it's not to say there's a right and wrong, clearly. There's not a right and wrong, that sitting longer is wrong or sitting shorter is right, or vice versa. But I think the principle is actually the wholesome dharmas of balance, right? The principle of balance is, can I stay balanced in my heart all the time? Can I come from a place of impartiality where I can observe the rise and falls of thoughts, emotions, schedules, people, without getting attached? I mean, I think when Ramangshar said quality over quantity, that's something for me I can really work on, is can I maintain that balance all the time? So maybe today, as people are going through your day, perhaps you can see if you can maintain that inner sense of balance and impartiality. A lot of times things don't go our way, but if we cultivate this wholesome dharma of balance, even if things don't go our way, it's no problem. Because our value isn't about getting our way. What we're prioritizing is staying in balance. And interesting enough, and this is the path to real liberation. Okay, so just maybe that much for this morning. We can continue with our 3 steps, 1 bow.